Common right now to find somebody who has paid maybe $60,000 or $65,000 for a very high-end pickup truck. Well, even the average pickup truck now is going to be crossing over that $50,000 barrier.
8 pickups that looked like deals until they destroyed their owners. From exploding spark plugs to emission scams, these trucks weren't just unreliable, they were engineered disasters. Families thought they were saving money, but instead they paid for engines twice. Which trucks collapsed under their own hype? Why are so many still being resold as great buys? And how do you spot the red flags before it's too late? By the end, you'll know which keys not to turn if you value your wallet. Ford F-150? Not every chapter in a countdown has to begin in the same predictable way, so let us open this one with a reminder of loyalty betrayed. Few vehicles carry the weight of tradition in the United States quite like the Ford F-150. For decades, it has not only been the best-selling pickup truck in the country, but also a symbol of family work ethics, weekend projects, and the promise of durability. Yet from the model years 2004 through 2010, buyers who thought they were investing in strength and peace of mind often found themselves instead signing up for frustration, repair bills, and endless mechanical uncertainty. The villain of the story is the 5.4-liter Triton V8 engine, an ambitious design that delivered plenty of torque on paper, but left owners empty-handed when it came to longevity and reliability. One of the most notorious disasters tied to this engine was the spark plug fiasco. Early production models were fitted with aluminum cylinder heads whose threads were simply too weak. Spark plugs would sometimes shoot out under pressure, launching themselves like miniature bullets while leaving expensive damage behind. Imagine driving calmly to work and suddenly hearing a loud bang, followed by a rough idle and an urgent need for a tow truck. Ford eventually tried to revise the design, but the cure was nearly as bad as the disease. Later versions locked the spark plugs into the head so tightly that many broke when technicians attempted removal. The repair process could balloon into thousands of dollars, as mechanics had to dig out broken pieces or replace entire cylinder heads. A simple maintenance procedure turned into a nightmare that kept drivers up at night. But spark plugs were only the beginning. Timing chain issues began to haunt owners as mileage climbed. Chains stretched prematurely, throwing engines out of sync. Camshaft phasers rattled at idle with a sound so embarrassing that proud truck owners sometimes compared it to an old farm tractor. Repairs involved removing major engine components and replacing full timing sets, often at costs ranging from $4,000 to $6,000, and sometimes even higher. Coil packs failed in succession, oil leaks appeared, and gasket failures became routine. It was death by 1,000 cuts. Loyal Ford buyers, many of whom had driven the brand for generations, were left staring at invoices that outweighed the market value of their trucks. As resale values plummeted and reputations took a beating, the once mighty Triton became a cautionary tale. For anyone seeking a budget pickup today, an older Ford F-150 with the 5.4-liter Triton might look appealing at first glance. Yet behind the low price tag lies a legacy of costly breakdowns. Transitioning from this chapter of broken loyalty, let us shift gears toward another entry where promises of efficiency came with an even harsher penalty. Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Sometimes the story of a vehicle is not about what it could not do, but rather about what it promised to do and failed spectacularly. That is the case with the Chevrolet Silverado 1500, produced between the years 2007 and 2014. At first glance, this pickup truck carried the weight of an American icon, dependable, hardworking, and built to handle family life, job sites, and long highways. Under the hood, however, General Motors introduced a technology called active fuel management, or in its longest format, Active Fuel Management Cylinder Deactivation System. On paper, this clever innovation was meant to improve efficiency by shutting off half of the 8 cylinders during light driving. In practice, it created one of the most widespread mechanical headaches in modern truck ownership. Owners soon began to notice an unsettling sound, a faint metallic tick echoing from deep inside the engine bay. That tick was not harmless background noise. It was the early death rattle of hydraulic lifters collapsing, camshafts grinding, and internal engine components wearing prematurely. Once failure set in, tiny fragments of metal would travel through the oil system, scarring bearings and damaging journals. What began as an innocent-sounding click often ended with catastrophic repairs. Fixing lifters and camshafts routinely cost between $3,000 and $7,000. If the damage spread too far, a complete engine replacement was the only solution, and that could climb beyond $15,000. For many families, That was the price of a brand new compact car, poured into keeping an old pickup alive. Beyond the lifter disaster, another plague emerged: oil consumption at alarming rates. Thanks to the same active fuel management design, oil slipped past piston rings with shocking regularity. Some drivers reported burning a quart of oil every 1,000 miles. Long road trips often meant carrying spare oil in the truck bed just to make it safely across state lines. Missing even one top-off risked seizing the engine entirely. The very system marketed as a money saver at the pump turned into a financial black hole in the repair shop. Chevrolet attempted multiple Band-Aid solutions, including redesigned oil deflectors, software updates, and selective warranty extensions. Yet none of these efforts solved the core weakness. Worse still, many trucks failed just after warranty coverage expired, leaving loyal customers footing massive bills. Online forums filled with frustrated Silverado owners, sharing stories of repeat breakdowns and resale values crashing far faster than expected. By the middle of the 2020 decade, used Silverado trucks with active fuel management were treated like toxic assets by savvy buyers. So while the Silverado 1500 remains a symbol of American roads, the generation fitted with the active fuel management cylinder deactivation system is better remembered as an expensive gamble. As we move on, keep in mind that paying a premium badge price does not always mean escaping the nightmare. In fact, our next chapter reveals how another domestic brand twisted promises of efficiency into a saga of disappointment. If this breakdown is opening your eyes, hit that like button so more truck buyers see it before wasting thousands. And drop a comment below sharing your worst repair nightmare. It might save another driver from repeating the same mistake. Ram 1500 EcoDiesel. Every great innovation begins with a promise, and the promise that came with the Ram 1500 EcoDiesel was irresistible. Imagine the idea of a full-size pickup truck that could tow and haul like a workhorse, yet sip fuel like a family sedan. That was the alluring vision when Fiat Chrysler Automobiles unveiled the 3.0-liter turbocharged diesel six-cylinder engine for the Ram 1500 in the model year 2014. With highway ranges advertised at over 700 miles on a single tank and torque figures surpassing 400 pound-feet, the EcoDiesel seemed like the future of practical power. Buyers were told they could have it all: efficiency, durability, and muscle wrapped in a modern pickup. Reality, however, was far less glamorous. Beneath the marketing shine lurked fragile engineering that betrayed thousands of owners. The timing chain system, a backbone of engine synchronization, often failed prematurely. Weak bearings further undermined long-term reliability, while oil cooler leaks turned routine drives into costly shop visits. Complete engine replacements, all too common among unlucky owners, were often quoted at $15,000 or more. For hardworking families, that was not just a repair bill, it was financial devastation. And then came the emissions system nightmare. Diesel particulate filters clogged with soot, exhaust gas recirculation valves stuck open, and diesel exhaust fluid injectors failed with alarming regularity. When these components broke down, the truck did not simply struggle. It went into what the manufacturer called limp mode. Owners found themselves crawling along highways at dangerously low speeds until they could limp into a service center. The cost of emissions-related repairs often ranged between $8,000 and $12,000, swallowing any fuel savings that buyers had counted on. The story grew darker still when government investigations revealed that software tricks had been used to cheat emissions testing. Regulators determined that the EcoDiesel was not as clean as advertised, forcing recalls, lawsuits, and expensive settlements. What was once marketed as an eco-friendly alternative suddenly carried the stigma of deception. Owners who had proudly touted their forward-thinking choice now felt embarrassed and misled. Resale value collapsed quickly. By the mid-2020 decade, dealers were slashing prices to move EcoDiesel trucks off their lots, but informed buyers stayed away. Online communities filled with horror stories, from failed engines to endless emissions, warnings flashing across dashboards. The dream of saving money at the pump had turned into the reality of spending far more in the service bay. Thus, the Ram 1500 EcoDiesel stands as a painful reminder that clever marketing cannot overcome flawed engineering. Transitioning from this tragic chapter, we now look toward a gasoline-powered sibling where the promise of a legendary V8 roar came with its own hidden risks and heartaches. Ram 1500. Some vehicles capture the imagination, not only because of how they look, but also because of the way they sound. Few power plants in American automotive history stir the soul quite like the 5.7-liter Hemi 8-cylinder engine. It produces a deep, throaty roar that has echoed across drag strips, job sites, and suburban driveways since the early 2000s. By the model year 2011, Ram was fitting its half-ton trucks with this legendary engine alongside a clever piece of technology called multi-displacement system, or in full, multi-displacement cylinder deactivation system. The idea was simple: shut down half the cylinders during light driving to save fuel without losing the thrill of V8 power. On paper, it was the perfect marriage of strength and efficiency. In reality, it created one of the most frustrating ownership experiences for countless truck buyers. The trouble began with lifters and camshafts. Owners across North America began reporting what became known as the Hemi tick, a faint tapping or rattling sound that grew louder as mileage accumulated. At first, some dismissed it as harmless noise, but behind that tick was serious mechanical wear. Lifters designed to deactivate under the multi-displacement cylinder deactivation system sometimes collapsed. Once they did, they damaged the camshaft lobes and sent shavings of metal into the oil system. Repair costs spiraled rapidly, with lifter and camshaft replacement often ranging between $3,000 and $7,000. When damage spread deeper, complete engine replacements were quoted at more than $12,000, devastating for families who thought they had purchased a dependable workhorse. Adding to the misery, other supporting components were not immune to problems. Valve train parts wore prematurely, timing chains stretched, and oil pressure systems sometimes faltered. In the worst cases, the combination of lifter failure and oil contamination led to total engine failure well before the 100,000-mile mark. While many owners escaped catastrophe with diligent maintenance, too many others faced breakdowns that transformed a proud purchase into a costly burden. Fuel economy improvements. The very justification for the multi-displacement cylinder deactivation system often proved modest at best. Some owners even reported that the constant deactivation and reactivation of cylinders created roughness in driving and eliminated any perceived gains. The result was a truck that drank fuel like a traditional V8, yet carried the extra baggage of expensive repair risks. By the end of the 2010s, the reputation of the 5.7-liter Hemi had become a double-edged sword. Its power and sound were iconic, but its mechanical weaknesses made many used buyers cautious. As resale values dipped on high-mileage examples, the allure of a cheap Hemi often hid the danger of enormous repair bills waiting just around the corner. And so, from the thunder of roaring exhaust pipes, we now turn to another truck brand that once stood as a paragon of reliability, but stumbled into surprising failure, showing that even the most trusted names can falter. Toyota Tundra. Every brand builds a reputation, and Toyota earned its crown by producing vehicles known to run seemingly forever. Owners of early Toyota pickups often boasted of crossing the 200,000-mile mark, or even reaching 300,000 miles, with little more than basic oil changes and routine maintenance. That history set the stage for the Toyota Tundra, equipped with the 5.7-liter 8-cylinder engine. Introduced in the model year 2007, buyers believed they were stepping into a truck that would outlast them, a full-size pickup that could combine legendary Toyota reliability with American-sized strength. Unfortunately, those expectations collided with mechanical issues that quickly undermined the myth of indestructibility. One of the most notorious weaknesses was the secondary air injection pump system. This small-seeming component was part of the emissions control network, but when it failed, and it failed far too often, the truck would immediately enter limp mode. Drivers suddenly found themselves crawling along highways at unsafe speeds, barely able to move while semi-trailers roared past. Repairing or replacing the pump and its related valves regularly cost between $4,000 and $6,000, a shocking bill for something so minor in concept. Owners who had chosen Toyota to avoid the nightmares of American competitors found themselves paying dearly for an emissions flaw that felt like betrayal. The troubles did not stop there. Rear differentials, designed on paper to handle heavy towing loads, revealed serious durability gaps in real-world use. They whined, clunked, and in too many cases, shattered under stress. Imagine hitching up a trailer and hearing a metallic snap halfway up a steep hill, followed by the sickening realization that the rear end of the truck was destroyed. Repair or replacement could easily demand another $3,000 to $5,000, adding to a pile of unexpected expenses. And then came the corrosion problem. Owners in northern states where salt-covered winter roads watched as the frames of their Tundras rusted faster than expected. Lawsuits and buybacks had already plagued earlier Toyota models, yet this generation carried vulnerabilities of its own. Buyers who paid extra for what they thought was a bulletproof pickup sometimes found resale values collapsing when used truck shoppers glanced underneath and spotted spreading rust. Fuel economy disappointed as well, with the big 5.7-liter engine often struggling to do better than the low teens in miles per gallon. For Toyota enthusiasts, the emotional sting was sharpest. They had purchased a truck not only for work or commuting, but also for the belief in a legacy of indestructibility. Instead, they found themselves staring at repair invoices and resale values in freefall. From the fall of this once untouchable reputation, we now turn toward another manufacturer, one that attempted to break into diesel glory but delivered a short-lived disaster instead. Nissan Titan XD Diesel. Hope can be a dangerous thing in the truck world, and few launches carried more hope than the Nissan Titan XD Diesel. When it arrived for the model year 2016, buyers thought they were witnessing a revolution. Here was a pickup truck that was larger and stronger than the traditional half-ton, but not quite as massive or intimidating as a 3/4-ton. Nissan promised that this in-between truck, powered by a 5.0-liter Cummins turbocharged 8-cylinder diesel engine, would blend towing strength with daily comfort. Truck enthusiasts imagined highway cruising with torque to spare, long-distance hauling without strain, and the credibility of the Cummins nameplate proudly displayed under the hood. Reality, however, revealed the cracks in the foundation almost immediately. The emission system turned into a recurring nightmare. Exhaust gas recirculation valves clogged with soot far earlier than expected, diesel particulate filters became choked and required expensive servicing, and diesel exhaust fluid injectors failed with disturbing frequency. When any one of these parts went bad, the truck often defaulted into limp mode. Imagine attempting to merge onto a busy interstate while your expensive new diesel refuses to accelerate beyond 20 miles per hour. Owners describe the experience as terrifying, not merely inconvenient. Repair bills frequently reached $8,000 or more, and those who thought they were saving money on diesel efficiency quickly realized they had signed up for financial disaster. Turbocharger failures struck alarmingly early, with many units seizing or shattering before 80,000 miles, sending metal fragments through intercoolers and exhaust systems and driving repair bills from $4,000 to $6,000, sometimes soaring to $12,000 or even $15,000. Owners who trusted the Cummins reputation instead faced staggering costs. Cooling systems added to the misery, with leaking radiators, bursting hoses, and nitrogen oxide sensors costing more than $2,000 failing so frequently that drivers likened them to a subscription plan. The Titan XD Diesel's short 3-year run worsened matters, leaving scarce parts and reluctant dealerships. By the middle of the 2020 decade, the Nissan Titan XD Diesel had gained a reputation as one of the biggest pickup flops of modern times. Dealers slashed prices to move them, yet savvy buyers avoided the gamble. The truck that was supposed to change the game ended up as a cautionary tale of misplaced trust and dashed expectations. And as this story of orphaned diesel dreams closes, we now turn toward a mid-size pickup that was supposed to be the smarter choice, but instead revealed headaches of its own. You've seen how deep these truck disasters go, and the list isn't finished yet. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because the next countdown could reveal the exact truck you're considering, and missing it might cost you everything. Chevrolet Colorado. Expectations can sometimes be the cruelest enemy of all, and the Chevrolet Colorado equipped with the 2.8-liter Duramax turbocharged diesel 4-cylinder engine is a textbook example of this truth. When General Motors reintroduced the Colorado to American buyers, the goal was to offer a mid-size pickup that could deliver all the usefulness of a full-size truck without the overwhelming bulk or the crushing cost at the fuel pump. The promise of diesel power only made the package more attractive. Marketing highlighted highway range, towing capability, and efficiency numbers that seemed almost too good to be true. Unfortunately, for many owners, the dream collapsed quickly, replaced by endless service appointments and repair bills that made them question every decision leading to their purchase. One of the earliest and most destructive flaws centered on the emissions system. Diesel particulate filters clogged with soot at shockingly low mileages, exhaust gas recirculation valves began sticking or failing altogether, and diesel exhaust fluid injectors sputtered out with depressing regularity. Each of these failures alone was expensive, but the consequences when combined were catastrophic. When the truck's onboard computer detected emission system malfunctions, it often forced the vehicle into limp mode. Suddenly, a pickup advertised as a towing champion was crawling along at 20 miles per hour, barely able to make it off the interstate. Repair bills for these problems were often quoted at $8,000 to $10,000, a brutal hit for families who thought they had chosen the smart, fuel-efficient option. The disappointments extended further as turbocharger failures became common, with some units collapsing before 80,000 miles, leaving owners facing replacement costs of $4,000 to $6,000, and in severe cases, five-figure repairs. Nitrogen oxide sensors and diesel exhaust fluid level sensors added to the misery, each often exceeding $2,000, and their failure could disable the truck entirely. On-road performance deepened frustration, with turbo lag so severe that acceleration felt like trudging through wet cement, while idle rattles resembled farm machinery. Paired with poor resale value and relentless maintenance costs, the Colorado's diesel promise collapsed into widespread disillusionment. By the middle of the 2020 decade, used examples of the 2.8-liter Duramax diesel Colorado were being passed over by informed buyers who knew the risks. Dealers slashed prices, but savvy shoppers understood that savings at the fuel pump meant little when mechanical fragility lurked under the hood. And as we leave behind this disappointing mid-size gamble, we arrive at the #1 truck on the list, a model that carried cool factor in abundance but stumbled badly during its early production years. Jeep Gladiator. In the world of pickup trucks, style and identity can sometimes be just as important as towing figures or fuel economy, and no recent truck embodied this idea more than the Jeep Gladiator. When it debuted for the model year 2020, buyers were thrilled at the thought of finally having a vehicle that combined the rugged, trail-conquering DNA of the Jeep Wrangler with the utility of a pickup bed. It was marketed as the best of both worlds: open-air freedom, legendary off-road capability, and a dose of practical hauling, all in one adventurous package. Enthusiasts lined up with deposits, believing they were about to drive home the most distinctive and versatile mid-size pickup on the market. Yet the earliest examples of the Jeep Gladiator, particularly those from the model years 2020 and the early production run of 2021, revealed painful flaws beneath the shiny promise. Clutch failures surfaced rapidly among manual transmission models, with some owners reporting burnt-out clutch components before even reaching low-mileage benchmarks. Jeep was forced to issue recalls and technical service bulletins, but the damage to buyer confidence had already begun. Imagine spending more than $40,000 on a brand-new truck, only to watch it sit in the service bay, waiting for replacement parts that should never have failed so soon. Axle problems quickly added to the frustration, with reports of rear axles leaking, making unsettling noises, or wearing out prematurely, raising doubts about durability and tarnishing Jeep's rugged reputation. Costly drivetrain repairs often climbed into the several $1,000s range, erasing the excitement that had surrounded the Gladiator's launch. Electronics compounded the headaches as infotainment systems froze mid-drive, backup cameras blinked out, and warning lights illuminated without reason, steadily eroding driver confidence. Build quality issues, from misaligned panels and rattling trim to leaking soft tops, reinforced a sense of rushed production. Early depreciation deepened disappointment as resale values collapsed faster than anticipated. By the middle of the 2020 decade, used car shoppers had grown cautious about these first-wave Gladiators. Informed buyers checked vehicle identification numbers carefully, seeking to avoid the troubled early runs. Meanwhile, dealers discounted them heavily to attract interest, but even bargain hunters understood that repairs could outweigh the purchase price. The Jeep Gladiator remains one of the most distinctive and charismatic mid-size pickups available, but the earliest builds taught a costly lesson. Even the most exciting designs can stumble badly when production quality fails to match ambition. And with this chapter, our countdown of the worst pickups reaches its conclusion. A reminder that every flashy promise on the lot deserves careful scrutiny before it empties your wallet. You've just seen the trucks that turn pride into regret and deals into disasters. Protect your wallet, protect your future. Never gamble on the wrong ride again. Share this video with someone shopping right now and subscribe for the next countdown, because the worst mistake is ignoring the warning you've already been given today.